Hello and welcome to the Flipping and Wholesaling Houses in New York show. I'm Michael Pinter. I teach you how to start flipping and wholesaling houses in New York, or if you're already doing it, how to grow your business. So a question I got today was, can a lien be placed on a property in a trust? So I want to describe what a lien is and what a trust is, why some people use trusts. Is that better? I really can't see it like that. So first of all, a lien is like a debt, and it's attached to a property. So when you borrow a mortgage, they put a lien on it. So you have a note that says you owe a certain amount of money under certain terms. And then in New York, it's a mortgage. In other states, it's called a deed of trust. In some states, it's actually called a mortgage deed of trust. Is put on. That's the lien on the property that says if you don't follow the terms of the note, then we are going to foreclose because of this lien, right? It's like it's something you owe. Now, what is a trust? A trust is an entity, so almost like a business, right? There's people, and then there's businesses, and their trust is an entity, sort of almost like a corporation, but it's an entity. And you form an entity. Usually a trust has an owner, a beneficiary, and a trustee that sort of is in charge of the trust. And the main reason I would say, so there's a few reasons why people create trusts. The main reason I would say is for tax purposes. People like to put their assets into a trust so that when they pass away, they don't owe any, the hell's the word I'm looking for? Inheritance tax. No, it's not a taxable event when they pass away because their assets are owned in this trust and not owned by a person. So there are a lot of different trusts. Some investors put properties into trusts to stay anonymous. So I know in some states, and it's something I thought about doing but I never did, but you can create a trust, and in some states the laws are so restrictive that no one can see anybody but the trustee. The trustee is usually an attorney, and they just won't know who owns the property. Now, you do that for a few reasons. One of the reasons is that you want to stay anonymous, and if you don't want to get sued, right? So there are a lot of reasons why a real estate investor can get sued, right? You own a property and somebody trips in front of it. I had that once, and they said, hey, we want to sue you. I told my insurer, and I never heard about it again. I don't know what happened. But if somebody really has it in for you to sue you for whatever reason, if a property is owned in a trust, all they can get are the assets of the trust. I use an LLC, or a limited liability corporation. Almost every time I buy a property and close on it, I create a new LLC to own that. I do that because I want there to be limited liability, which means that if someone should trip and fall, for example, in one of my properties, they had severe damage, then they're limited to the assets of that property. Another thing I like doing is that after I sell the property, I can I can dissolve the LLC, or at least the LLC has no assets. So I remember I had a situation where I was being sued, and I was paying an attorney to defend it, and then we sold the property, and then after a while I said to the attorney, what happens if we don't defend it? He goes, well, they'll get a default judgment. I go, but the default judgment will be against LLC. LLC has no assets. He's like, yeah, we probably should stop defending it. So that's a tremendously good feeling, because once you sell the property, and litigation takes forever, so you can sell the property, if that's the only asset of that LLC, they can't go after any other assets. So it's tremendously freeing to know that if you get sued for the assets in one LLC, and that LLC has no assets because you've sold the property at some point, you're pretty much judgment proof at that point, because they can't go after you. So what a lot of investors in other states do is they create this trust, land trust for certain things, or certain trusts, and they then have real anonymity. And the way it works is, if you're suing somebody, the attorneys only try and sue assets that can collect. It's very easy to get a judgment against somebody. Trust me, it's coming from somebody who's gotten a lot of judgments against tenants for not paying. It's much harder to collect the assets. So attorneys will not waste their time trying to collect from something that they're not sure has assets. So if you own something in a trust and they can't even figure out who the owner is, it's very common that they just will not pursue the litigation because it's too complicated for them to go about it. So I know people open trusts in certain states. I forgot which states, Wyoming, Utah, and the laws there are very, very, very selective and very prohibitive about releasing that information. So you hire some attorney to be the trustee, and it's almost impossible for them to even find out that you're involved in the property. So it's something to think about, but it had an expense, and I looked at it and decided against it. I'm fine with my LLC defense right now. But the answer is, can a lien be placed on a property trust? The answer is absolutely yes, right? I mean, think about it. Just because you own a trust doesn't mean there can't be a lien on it. So of course there's a lien. If you can take a mortgage and a lender is willing to lend to a property owned in a trust, which a lot of lenders will not, because they are going to have the same problem foreclosing that an attorney might have collecting. So, but assuming you took a mortgage out on a property and then put it in a trust, then there's a lien on a property in a trust. And anytime a lien can get formed, so some of the other popular liens are mechanics liens. So if you hire a contractor and he doesn't get paid, he can put a mechanics lien. Unfortunately, it's very easy to place. Much easier than you think to place a mechanics lien on a property. It's happened to me. And unfortunately, what happens sometimes is that sometimes you, as a homeowner, pay a general contractor and he doesn't pay a subcontractor, so a plumber or a carpenter or a electrician, and that person will put a lien on your property even though you paid the general contractor in full. And then you got to negotiate it, and that's happened. Unfortunately, it's way too easy for tradesmen to put mechanics liens on property, but that is the way it works. That's a common lien. Another lien that's common is a tax lien. So if you owe taxes, the IRS or the state will put a lien on property that you own. And these things can go absolutely on a property of the trust. There's no real restriction. The trust does not prevent, at least in New York, liens from coming on the property. What it does prevent, look at the lighting here. What it does prevent is sometimes disclosure, as I said, where no one's going to know that you own it, and it does prevent any taxable event happening if the owner dies, right? Because if the owner dies and a property is owned in trust, then nothing has changed because it wasn't owned by a person. It was owned by this trust entity that still lives on. So there are benefits to owning a property in a trust. I have chosen not to do that, to create a trust, an overarching trust in some other state, because also one of the reasons is because of lending, right? In New York, if you go to a lender and you say, I own a property in a trust in Utah, they're probably going to tell you to go fly a kite. They don't want that. They want a simple LLC where they know who the members are. It's very straightforward. So for me, it wasn't worth it, but I do understand in other parts of the country to create a trust. And in general, I understand there are other things. There are a lot of uses for trusts, right? There are trusts to protect assets that you want to pass on to your kids, forgetting about if you die, whether you're not, right? You've heard of the certain trust fund. So wealthy parents will put money in trust for their kid, but they can't touch it until they reach a certain age, right? So it's a trustee that manages that. The kids are the beneficiary, but the parents are the owners. Sometimes they have control of the property. There are revocable trusts and there are irrevocable trusts. Some lenders will lend to things in a revocable trust, but not to an irrevocable trust. These are things that you deal with all the time. This is really legal matters that should be dealt with an attorney who specializes in T&E and trust and estates. But the answer to the question is absolutely yes. You can. A property that's in a trust can get a lien on it, no problem. So I hope this was helpful. I hope this answered your question. If you're interested in all the ways I can help you, go to howtoflipnewyork.com. And if you are interested in a course I have that teaches how to do what I do, go to howtoflipnewyorkcourse.com. And if you are interested in finding out more about one-on-one coaching from me, go to coaching.howtoflipnewyork.com. Oh, the sun's right on my face. And then if you are watching on YouTube, please subscribe. If you're watching on any channel, any media platform, please click thumbs up. The likes really help me. And please keep the comments coming. I post 5 times a week, and very often I don't know what the hell to talk about. Your comments give me information, and there are no bad comments. Sorry about that. There are no bad comments. The comment can be about anything. It doesn't have to be about the video you're watching. If it's a simple answer, I'll just reply with an answer. If it's a topic I've covered before, I'll send you links to the videos. And if it's a new topic, I'll do a new video on it. So thank you very, very much for watching.